Hey everyone, this is me, the Undead Viking. A while back, I did a review for a role-playing game called Dark Places and Demogorgons. I'll put the link to the original book, here in the description of the video, so you can check that out if you want to. But regardless, the designer, the writer, the creator of that book, that game, that role-playing game, asked me if I wanted to take a look at the newest book that he created for that system, and this is kind of like a monster manual for it. Now, Dark Places and Demogorgons, just brief explanation as far as what that is. As you can probably guess, it is heavily influenced by Stranger Things, the show, the Demogorgon, things like that, but it isn't so much, like, it isn't a copy so much, but it is definitely one of those types of, it tries to pull people into a world of, like, this is a real world, like, so, like, our everyday life kind of thing, but there's lots of, like, crazy, spooky stuff going on, and so players get to play, people, like normal people, kids, and adults or whatever, but you get to play normal people, and then, but you are, and put in a normal world, so like, walking outside, hey, here's a street, there's a car, it isn't a fantasy world, but there are crazy elements going on, like strange things, alternate universes, monsters, stuff like that, so just, like I said, go check out my original review, and you can kind of get a little more in-depth view as far as that goes. So, any good role-playing game, in my opinion, has to have enemies. And for enemies, you also have to have, like, for lack of a better terminology, monsters, things that you have to deal with. And any good system has to have a good monster manual. I mean, we can all, if you're a role-playing gamer, you definitely, I'm guessing, on your role-playing bookshelf, you have several different tomes that are filled with adversaries and monsters that if you're running a game, the players have to contend with to, fulfill aspects of the story. So that's what this is, and I'm going to kind of page to the book and kind of show you what's inside, and we'll come back here and I'll talk to you. The cool thing about this is that it is like this cryptid manual. So if you know what cryptids are things like the Loch Ness Monster or the Abominable Snowman or whatever that like are rumored to be real and people believe in them. Like right now, I mean, people believe there are big feet walking around up in the Pacific Northwest, right? And no, whether or not you believe in that, that's all up to you. But this is like a book that is all about those types of creatures. So, all right, so let me show you what's inside this sucker, and then we'll come back here and I'll give you my final thoughts. Alright, so obviously this is the book, The Dark Places and Demogorgons Cryptid Manual. I like the little artwork on the front. It obviously shows some creepy little creature up on some bridge or something like that. The back has this, the nightmares are real, and, the logo or whatever. The book itself, like, and just kind of like, obviously, because this is kind of a print-on-demand book that I was sent, so the final published book may or may not look exactly like the one you're looking at right now. I won't know, but let me see, how many pages did we get here? It's about 87 pages, 88 or so, and as I said, it is kind of given to you not like a classic monster manual, like, oh, hey, this is Monster A, this is Monster B, and so on and so forth. It is kind of presented to you like, oh, you found this book, it is an actual manual, like, look, here's little sticky notes, and there's like little things of blood up there. There's some cool background stuff here, oh, they know, and stuff like that. And you can kind of tell the creator has kind of decided to go with like the blacked out text, obviously, things that have been modified and changed. It's meant to be kind of an immersive reading experience and not just a straightforward monster manual, if you will. Now, I'm not going to go through every single page, but I just want to let you see, what you're going to get here. There are, tells you what you're going to be reading. Stat block says failed courage and terror effects for over here for, obviously these things are going to be scary that your characters are going to run into. But then it just starts talking about the different things, a hool and Bigfoot and several different types of Bigfoots, like the skunk apes and the Sasquatch and the Yetis and so on and so forth. Talks about the black-eyed children, one of my favorite new conspiracy, crazy demon things that supposedly are, around the world, or I guess I've read a lot about those, supposedly around Central America and stuff like that. The Bunyip, Cerberus, different extraterrestrials, little green men, Nordics, the Greys, reptilians. Remember, here he is eating a mouse or whatever, straight out of the Visitors, right? Remember that? Even fairies, gremlins, and once again, little post-it notes or anything like that. This whole immersive experience. I like the artwork that's in here. It isn't trying to be super detailed. It's just trying to be representative of the game. Kind of leave a little bit to your imagination, but also, kind of also show you what you're dealing with, if you will. Towards the back of the book, the Wendigo. I do like that picture a great deal. But towards the back of the book, you get into templates. They don't have a Godzilla creature in here, which, I have to admit, I'm a little upset about that. But they do have rules for giant creatures, so you can make a giant lizard or dire creatures, rabid, different things that you can do, radioactive, different lycanthropes, if you will, and all kinds of different ones, were-sharks, were-gators, were-bears, so on and so forth. Vampires, if you want to have those in your game, zombies, and also just random enhancements and things like that. Weakened, cryptids as well, random cryptids and animals, so if you just want to come with something on the fly, something that your characters will have to deal with. Different morale modifiers, different effects, and just some updated and useful game terms. So things that have just changed a little bit, just updated to kind of make sure that you're running your game as well as you possibly can. Just the book itself. I read this. I sat down and read this during one of my children's Taekwondo classes. It took me about an hour and a half to read. It was a real page turner, really enjoyable. Basically, if you are playing Dark Places and Demogorgons, this is kind of a must-have book, in my opinion. You're going to want all these different creatures if you're just kind of interested in having ideas for whatever kind of crazy game that you're running. I could definitely see if you were playing the In the Loop, that other kind of game that's kind of this kind of world or whatever, the alternate world that your characters are going up with. Great source material for that as well. It's just good stuff. And plus, it actually touches on all these other cryptid creatures, as I mentioned in my introduction, that I think is really cool, and that's kind of an added little bonus. But I'll talk about that in my final thoughts, which I'll do right now. Alright, so yeah, there you go. That is the book, the Cryptid book for Dark Places and Demogorgons. So I wanted to say a couple of things that I think were really cool. Is that when I think I mentioned this in a few of my videos, so if you might have heard me say this before. But when I was a kid, and I think a lot of kids go through this phase, or at least they did. When I was a kid, I bought into all of those things. I totally bought into ghosts. I bought into the Bermuda Triangle. I thought UFOs were real. I thought the Loch Ness Monster was real. Sea serpents and the Yeti and the Bigfoot. I thought they were real. And I would go to the library and I'd check out book after book after book that I could find that talked about these subjects. And, as you grow older, you kind of lose that belief in those things. You kind of actually say, well, come on, the Loch Ness Monster is this, comparatively, this little tiny lake in Scotland. If there was a giant monster in there, somebody would have, a dead one would have floated up or something, or now with everybody everybody has a camera in their hand constantly, right? Why don't we have a picture of it by now? That sort of thing. So it's definitely one of those things where, as I've grown older, my ability to believe in those things has definitely, taken a dive, if you will. But it was cool that the cryptids, the monsters that are listed in this book, are all things that I had read about at one point or another. I even mentioned the black-eyed children. That was my when I'm up late and I'm writing or I'm working on a review or whatever. I'll tune into late night coast to coast radio, and so you have I think it's George Norrie, and before it was Art Bell, rest in peace, things like that. And they would delve into the supernatural. They delve into the paranormal. And, I find that show to be interesting. And they mentioned the black-eyed children, there was a big, long episode. And that was really, really interesting to me. Now, I don't necessarily believe in it, but I definitely do like listening to people talk about those things and talk about those theories. Because it is kind of fun to just believe. And I do think that's one of the really great things about this book, is that people like me that grew up in that era when there weren't a million cell phones around and a million cameras in everybody's hands, it was easier to buy into the idea that there was something a little more weird and creepy in the world and could actually exist. And now we just probably won't ever feel like that, just because of technology and everything that we have. And I could go on and on about how basically the people that do believe in this stuff have definitely they've slowly altered the way that they approach it, right? It's it was easier to believe in things like the Men in Black and aliens and whatever. It was easier to buy into that stuff when there wasn't why didn't you get a picture of it? Oh, I don't have a camera, But now in the present day and age, it's just, it's because, those creatures, aliens aren't in spaceships anymore. They're on different dimensions and different wavelengths, so they don't actually even show up on film, stuff like that, I remember hearing once the reason why we don't find Bigfoot bones is because porcupines consider them a delicacy and they eat them. So we just kind of change our narrative. If you're gonna believe in those things, we just kind of change our aspect, change our way to fit the way those things fit into our world now. So I think it's kind of a love letter to me and the younger me that used to go and check out all those books about UFOs and monsters and whatever. And it's also, like I said, it's since it's it's an homage to Stranger Things, I think it also is a love letter to that era of the world where we could believe in something that wasn't just that's a building, that's a car, that's a person. We were able to go, you go in those woods too far, you're gonna run into a Bigfoot out there, and you would believe it because hey, the woods are scary, right? You don't want to go in there. But anyway, so if you haven't, like I said, go check out the early review for the actual core book so you can read about what the game is about and what have you. But if you do own Dark Places and Demogorgons, I strongly suggest that you pick this up just because of the background information, the adventure hooks, the things that it's going to add to your game and make it more and more fun for your players. I strongly, like I said, check it out. Until next time, I am the Undead Viking. I'm telling you to go ahead and have yourself one heck of an awesome day. Remember, be the best version of you that you possibly can be day in, day out. Strive for that excellence. You aren't going to hit it, but when your head hits the pillow that night, you can say, you know what? I tried to be a better person today, and that's a good feeling. So, until next time, me saying you be awesome. Talk to you later.